We're ticking down to the final moments. Lansing City trying to put something together. Aldoni Mendez, he's shielding off Hasevic's toe poke, finds the back of the net. Shoreline's up by 1 with a minute to play.
Wow, Aldoni Mendez just showing his intelligence to shield the ball, to not let Hasevic come through, and just to prevent, I mean, Hasevic is pulling at him, just to prevent any.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
McKenzie plays it in, gets it right back to Ramsey Terminini. Weisenhunt's across. Whoa! Hold up! Ramsey Terminini from the circle.
And just like that, Jenga is back in this match. What a shot from Terminini from deep.
My.
Unbelievable. He unleashes just power.
Placement to the upper 90 back post, and the lead is ultimately asking the question, like, was this the best match of futsal on U.S. soil? From a perspective of an entire 40 minutes of futsal, 2 teams that are playing really good futsal. It's back and forth, but not because it's chaotic.
The intensity just kept increasing.
Yeah.
And it started at kickoff.
Very little drop-off or mistake, and they just keep playing that really good futsal. This is what it's supposed to look like right here. There's no doubt that the environment, it's a part of what makes a game what it is. But I think like this is a game that if you took all that away and you just watched the game, it would be amazing still.
You're watching the Futsal Champions Series on FCS Live.
They're currently down 2. Here's Hindich at the near post. She slots it in. What a placement.
Yeah, fantastic.
From number 9,
placement.
Medina Hindich. We take another look.
That's what,
wow.
You know, Olé has to be frustrated with the goalkeeping.
I was pleasantly surprised with how we did. I feel like we did compete to the level that we could. I think you could definitely tell like our lack of experience. I think some of our goals were generally just some mistakes, and I think it's like a combination of nerves and just not, having the experience playing at the pace that we were playing. It's really fast, and I think if we tighten that up, like we could have, stayed.
Yeah.
Really like there with them, which is cool. I think for our first game, especially going against a team like Olé, I was really proud of the way we played.
Yeah.
Made a fantastic play. You know, you want to make that pass to the back foot and really give your teammate an opportunity just to slide it home first time, but Aldama was not able to handle it.
Midwest are able to work it up. How about this back post? A pretty goal. Raul Montañez doubles the lead.
Look, Aldama could not handle the pass to put it away himself, so he said, you know what, Montañez, I'm going to give it back to you, Raul. With a little back heel flick, just roll over, give it back to him. Montañez.
You're watching the Futsal Champions Series on FCS Live.
There were 3 red cards in that game.
3 red cards. You could see it on their faces, like they would hit the post again and they'd be like, what is happening?
And they only gave up 4 goals?
But it wasn't competitive.
In 40 minutes?
It wasn't competitive.
4 goals!
A sign that a fan has made, a fan of Gallup Futsal made it. Chicago House is grabbing the sign, holding it up, and they're passing it around.
The ball sticks to his feet. Like, I don't think that you should have seen him at practice last night. He was just toying with us. I ain't gonna lie.
What level of crazy do you need to be a goalkeeper in futsal?
11. 11. No one woke up one day and said, I want to be a keeper today. I didn't want to be a goalie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third half podcast here on this wonderful Thursday night in February. It's crazy. We're already here. Just about 2 months left in the FCS season. 2 months. The finals are coming up at the end of March. We have less than 2 months to the end of the FCS season. That is craziness. I'm Jared Kleppel, your host tonight. We are getting into that time where playoffs are in the picture, games are mattering for seeding particularly, and teams are still in it. There's still a couple of questions as far as who is getting in. There is still possibilities there. We're going to be talking about that later on today. Also, special guest going to be joining me from Lansing City. Drew Barney is coming in later on in the show. And, of course, the games that we have for this weekend, lots of amazing games to talk about. Today's show is sponsored by Jolt Creativity. Destroy the lie that says, I am not creative. Let's first talk about what we saw this past weekend. The FCS Futures Takeover was in full swing this past Saturday. A total of seven games that were featured in the takeover from ages U10 to U14 in the boys division on Saturday. What an awesome time that was. We saw IXO Futsal in their first FCS action. Got to meet Josh Spiegel last week on the third half. If you didn't see that, check it out on the FCS Futures third half takeover. We got to meet him. His team was in action for the first time in the FCS in the U10s division. We got to see Grand Rapids Guatemala FC, coached by Alex Mendez, in the FCS Futures for the first time. They came out with 2 victories, including a very, very close one against Lansing City in that U10's division. The second game of the day ended up 6-5, and I believe Lansing City was winning at the half by a goal, maybe 2. That one was super exciting. It came down to the very end. And then we also saw Olé twice in the U12s division, 2 different Lansing City teams in the U12s division. And for the U14s, it was Shoreline City and Detroit Imperial who got to play each other twice. I actually spoke this past week with both Coach Pierce and Coach Cody of those squads, and just the challenge that comes with playing the same team twice. Shoreline did actually win both games. However, Imperial were winning, I believe, all the way up until the end of the first half of the first game. And then Shoreline kind of started to lay it on, and then they ended those 2 games on a pretty heavy scoring run. But some awesome players we got to meet. We got to interview, I think it was Luke from Detroit Imperial and Porter from Shoreline City. We got to interview Nate from one of the Lansing City teams. And we also had a Guatemala interview that, unfortunately, the mic was off for. So that was kind of a bummer that we didn't get that on the air. But it was a great time. The kids got to play on the massive court, full regulation, FIFA international size court. And that was one of the biggest things of feedback from the kids and the players was, just being able to play in that big court, being able to play the real game of futsal. And that was a fun time. We got to... Of course, all these games are now uploaded to the YouTube channel. We stream them to the website, and now they're on the YouTube channel. So if you want to check it out, you can go to the YouTube channel right here under our uploaded videos, and you'll see all 7 games from the Futures Takeover there. What a great weekend it was. I was getting FCS tour vibes. If there's any production crew in the chat, you guys know what I'm talking about. We were going all day long, but it was awesome. It was awesome, and can't wait to have more Futures games. We actually have another weekend. I don't know how much we'll be able to do a full takeover like we did this past weekend, but next Saturday, the 14th, we do have maybe 2 or 3 games that we're scheduled to stream on that day. So be looking out for that. And, of course, there'll be more as the season continues to go on. So that was FCS Futures Takeover. We've been on a couple weeks of a break. Let's see. I'm curious. I put this question in the chat. We have some big games this weekend in the FCS. Which are you most excited for? So we have Olé meet Lansing again. In Grand Rapids is actually a doubleheader. The women's will play right after them. That's Saturday at 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Also Saturday, 8 p.m. is Detroit Imperial taking on Shoreline City. That's a huge one for playoff implications. We also have the Chicago House women taking on the Shoreline women at 8:30 p.m. in Chicago. Unfortunately, that one will not be able to be streamed as it was a reschedule, and there are 3 games now at the same time, and we are not outfitted to do 3 games at the same time right now. So unfortunately, that one will not be streamed. But then 2 more games on Sunday. So Innovation City and Jenga at 2 p.m., and then Midwest United and Olé at 7 p.m. on Sunday, February 8th. I see Aiden in the chat is excited for Shoreline versus Detroit for second place. This is a big one. This is a really big game. Yeah, so taking a look at the standings, we're going to talk more about the playoff implications and where everyone stands. But this one is huge because if you look at the standings right now, Imperial is 5-2 with 15 points, and they're in second. And Shoreline is 4-1-1, 13 points, they're in third. However, they have 1 game in the bag, so 1 less game played. So they do have the advantage. If they come in and they beat Detroit Imperial, they are in the driver's seat. We could have some really interesting things happen if Lansing City also gets a win, because then, of course, that'd be Olé getting their first loss and that. But it does open the door slightly to Shoreline competing for the 1 seed. Of course, Olé have only played 5 games up to this point, so to say that, they automatically have the 1 seed, you can't really say that. But also, based on how they've been playing, and they haven't lost in FCS yet, that is probably the top pick by most people for who will get the 1 seed. So let's talk about this game for a minute. Wow. Yeah, so this is one of them that I'm really excited for. Detroit Imperial coming off of a loss to Olé. Shoreline also coming off of a loss to Olé, interestingly enough. Shoreline haven't played for, I think it was January 3rd was their last game, so they have had some time off for a while. Definitely squads that are in different scenarios. You know, when you talk to Coach Pierce Brannigan of Detroit Imperial, you hear about how much they train and how, you know, committed their team is. I mean, of course, you have commitment all across the league, but just, you know, they're training 4 or 5 times a week. They're playing very often. And when I talk with Coach Cody of Shoreline, they're in a little bit of a different situation. You know, their players are not able to be as available as that for trainings. I think he mentioned they usually train at least, you know, once a week, and sometimes it's more than that. But that was something that kind of caught my attention when I was chatting with the coaches this week. Imperial is a team that is playing all the time, and they're coming off a recent game. In Shoreline, not so much. They haven't played since the 3rd, and if they're not training, you know, if they're only training once a week, it's possible that they have only been together and touched a ball maybe, what would that be, like 3 or 4 times? 4 or 5 times since this game. So that could have an implications into this game. Also, there's players that are missing on both sides. Imperial did have red card suspensions from the previous game. 2 people out. Amin Unzar as well as Abdullah Isale are out for this match. And on the other side, Shoreline City are going to be missing Alex Mendez, as he also got a yellow card, a second yellow, into a red late in the last match against Olé. So they will be without him on the floor. I'm told that he will be present and will be still adding his presence to the game as far as being a teammate, being a help on the sideline, maybe even, I don't know, taking some kind of assistant coaching sort of role, you could say. Nothing official, but you can just kind of picture what a leader on the team would be in that case. So he will be there but not be playing. So that's really big for both sides as far as losses. I mean, Abdullah Saleh has been around for a long time. Pierce talked about him as being one of the OGs. You know, he was around when Midwest kind of first started. Him and Davide are and Pierce are some of the only ones, if I'm not mistaken, they might be the only ones that are still rostered and active right now that were all the way back in those days. He's had a key role this season. He's gotten a lot of minutes. He's started most games. That's going to be a big loss for them. And then Amin Unzar, he's one of the 2 key new players that I've seen, him and Kevin Rodriguez, who will be at this game. But Unzar is another player that has been showing his benefits. And as more games are played, I think that that pattern is being able to be seen. So without 2 key players for them, that, you know, I think that weighs heavier on them, though you really could argue that Alex Mendez is such a huge piece to this Shoreline City team. I don't know if he's still in the lead for goals and assists. Let me double check that, because he has been at the top of the leaderboard. Yeah, he still is, which of course not all the teams have had the same number of games, but you know, he has 11 goals and 10 assists across Shoreline's 6 games. So 1 less game than Detroit Imperial, and you know, he's at 21 combined goals and assists. He's up top at that pivot spot. He plays that very well. He breaks the pressure very well. And when he has, I think Coach Pierce talked about it, saying that when you give him like an inch of space, it's like he can get a shot off, get a play off, and he is a very key factor for them. So, you know, I'm inclined, as I was mentioning before, to say that this, you know, as far as missing players go, this is going to hurt Imperial more. But it is really tough to say because Alex Mendez is such a huge part of the Shoreline City team. I think we're going to see Aldoni Mendez pick some things up, and Coach Cody also talked about this past week in conversations, he talked about Chris Mendes as well. He's been a huge part of their team. Sometimes he's kind of in the background. He's not the flashiest. He's, not on the leaderboard for goals and assists at the top like Alex is, but he certainly is an anchor for them in the back. He certainly is. He's kind of like one of those players that you can just rely on to be in the right spot, to be intelligent, to be good on the ball, to not give it away, and probably one of those guys that if you look at how many times they touch the ball and how many times it's positive and how many times it's negative, it probably is weighed in the positive a lot. And then we had so Alex's, his role is huge for this team. So I think that's something to pay attention to. How's that going to shake out for both sides? I think Shoreline City's on the road. They could be knocking some rust off. So I honestly, I do think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game. Shoreline City, if they played kind of how they did against Olé, they didn't really take their foot off the gas. That's something that when Alex Mendes came on the show, he kind of admitted that sometimes in the course of their season, they've been in situations where they're up by, 3 or 4 goals, and they kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. And so they never did that against Olé. I assume that they will enter this game kind of with a similar standpoint that we know that we could be playing for a 2 seed, which is huge. And let's talk about that just for a second and what this would mean. So a 2 seed, if you are a 2 seed, you get a first round bye, and then you will host a semifinal. And so you only have to win 1 playoff game to get to the championship, and it is at home. So it doesn't lock in the 2 seed for either of these 2 teams if they win, but it certainly does help quite a bit. For Shoreline City, I think it's more particularly because with a win, they're at 7 games played. They have 5 wins. They would be at 5-1-1 with 16 points, and everyone else below them would have 3 losses with 6 or 7 or 8 games played. So it puts them in a really good spot for Imperial. If they win, then they are ahead of Shoreline City. They still have a game left to play, but they'll have the same amount of losses, and they will have the tiebreaker head-to-head. So could be a really big one in this coming weekend, and certainly one of the games that I would be circling to watch. Let's take a look at the other game for Saturday. This is going to be the Women's Chicago House for Shoreline City at 8:30 p.m. So these 2 teams will meet again. The first time it was in Shoreline, and it was a 15-0 loss from them. Chicago House has looked like a very good team all year. They haven't played Olé yet, which is kind of the one that I'm anticipating as far as being a huge showdown. Could be 2 teams that are undefeated. They could be battling out for the 1 seed, which does get a bye right into the finals for the women's team. So that is a huge game that will be coming up soon. But this one first in Chicago. To me, I think, we know what the result was last time. We know what the expectation is based on how these teams have been performing in the league. So, if you're Shoreline City, you really got nothing to lose. You go out there and you try to show that you've made big steps. I mean, when I was talking with one of the coaches of the women's league a few weeks ago, I think it was Conrad Gonzalez who said, this league is so new. All these teams are still writing their story, and there could be really big jumps in development and in skill because of how new the league is and the teams are, especially a team like Shoreline City, where they're building it from the ground up. It's very similar to how Innovation are doing it in the men's side. They're really not really starting with players that they can grab from. They're starting from zero, and they have to build it. So we'll see what they can bring. That was what Coach Cody Harrell was most excited for his women's team on Saturday. Was we can see where what we've done in since the last time we played them, and see where we're at again. It's one of the great things about futsal is and sports is that you find out. At the end of the game, you find out where you're at what your team has done and what you've accomplished, and you can't hide from it, you can't run from it. So that is going to be this Saturday at 8:30. Again, this game will not be streamed, unfortunately, because we do have 3 simultaneous games going, and we just can't support that with our current FCS Live setup, equipment, and all that. So this one will not be streamed, unfortunately. There's a few other games that are on the docket, but we are going to cut to a quick commercial, and on the other side, Drew Barney of Lansing City will be joining us. I hope you guys are excited for that. I'm excited to talk to him and talk more about this Lansing City Olé Game 2 of the regular season, as the first one was so exciting. So that is on the other side of the ad break. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere.
The attack.
Kleppel now with it. Space inside. Shot. He finds the back of the net. Lansing City up by 1.
We haven't said it yet this season, but what a rocket from Jeremy Kleppel across.
Lyle turning his back, trying to get in front of it and also protect himself as Kleppel finds the side net and gives Lansing.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Go into the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third half, sponsored by Ally Marketing. Let's be friends. If you're looking for a marketing partner in the marketing space, marketing partner, check out allymarketing.us. They'll treat you more like a teammate than a number in your checkbook. Ally Marketing, let's be friends. And before Drew Barney comes on the show, he'll be on in about 10 minutes or so. We're going to go over a couple of more games that are coming up this weekend. So let's get to it. We went over the Detroit and Shoreline game. We went over the Women's Chicago and Shoreline. We're going to go over the Olé and Lansing ones once Drew is here or after that. So first, let's go to the first game on Sunday. This is Innovation City versus Jinga at 2 p.m. So for Innovation City, this is their last match at home this season. It will be match number 7 for them. So they'll have 3 more to go away. They'll be playing, I think it's Olé and Lansing away. And I think they get Chicago House away as well. So this is their last game at home. For me, I think this is, again, it's not a secret what the story has been for Innovation City. They're doing something really hard. They've not been competitive for a lot of the games, and that's just the reality. But this is a game that I think of the ones that are remaining on their schedule, I think this is their best opportunity to show something that we haven't seen all year. Jinga is a team that right now they're at 3-3. They have, They that's kind of how their performance has been. It kind of lines up pretty well with where they're at on the table. They are going to be traveling. Even though both of these are from Ohio, it's the Ohio battle. You could say it's still a fairly decent drive. I think it's longer than Lansing to Grand Rapids even, and maybe even Detroit to Grand Rapids. It might be longer. So Jinga's going to be traveling. Sometimes when they're traveling, you never know what kind of availability they might have. To me, this is, if I'm Innovation City, this is like, I feel like this is our best shot to have a really competitive match, for the remainder of the year. I think the Lansing City and Olé games are going to be very tough to be competitive. And then Chicago House, it's like another one that, Chicago has been very up and down. And so that could be another one. But to me, it's like, hey, it's our last game at home. This is our chance to kind of go, in a way, we're wrapping a portion of our season up because we will not be playing at home anymore, and we're playing a team like Jenga who is competitive, and they made the playoffs last year, and they're middle of the table this year, likely going to be in the playoffs this year. So maybe they have a chance to rattle something here. I think this is the one that you look at for the rest of the season if you're Innovation. And if you're Jenga, I think that's what you absolutely don't want. You don't want to let the possibility of an 0-6 team coming in and putting you below 500. You technically are still on the brink if you're Jenga. I think there is a world where Jenga could not qualify, but it for those types of things to happen, I think Jenga would have to maybe lose out, and Chicago House would have to win their last game. And then I think Jenga still have the tiebreaker. So I think it would have to actually be Innovation City who wins all of their games, or like 3 of their games plus a tie, something like that. So technically Jenga, you could say, they're not confirmed into the playoffs yet. But a result here, I believe, does put them in for sure, if I'm not mistaken. Because if they get to 10, then they'll be over Chicago House for sure, which they already are anyways. If Innovation can only get to 9 or 10, so technically a win, Jenga is in. A draw, they're not technically in, but as long as they keep their goal differential greater than Innovation City, they would be in the playoffs. So this is your chance to punch your ticket for sure, and to not let a team that right now is at the bottom of the standings be in a match that maybe you don't think should be in it. That's what I'm thinking. I think Jenga will probably take this one. I think Innovation, I think maybe the first half they might be able to. I think that's probably their pathways. If they can get a couple of good goals, maybe catch Jenga off, sleep in on a couple ones, and if they can get a couple and maybe go into the halftime break with a lead of a goal or two, they can really put some pressure on Jenga in the second half. But I really see this game in its entirety being taken over by Jenga, and probably a 4 or 5 goal victory is kind of where my head's at. Second game on Sunday at 7 p.m. It is the rematch of the Battle for Grand Rapids. And the first time this season, it was a very disappointing battle for Grand Rapids. Olé came out with the victory, and it was one of their biggest victories, I believe, over Midwest United, at least that I've seen. It was 11-2, a 9-goal victory. I think that's the most that I've seen in the FCS Live era from the beginning of last year until now. I don't think I know there was a one game, again, Midwest at Olé in the season last year that wasn't as competitive as some other ones have been. But this last one, I mean, that's really tough. 11-2 loss. Really disappointed for what I expected this match to be. And I'm hoping that this time it'll be different. Midwest will be at home. I mean, Midwest is still a talented team. I mean, I said this a couple weeks ago. Right now, they are at their record doesn't look very good. They're currently holding the last spot, making the playoffs. They're 2-3-1, only 7 points across 6 matches. But they have had a tough schedule. I mean, they've played Olé, they've played Lansing City, they drew with Shoreline, and they had a loss against Chicago. That was the big one that hurt them, or else they'd be at 3-2-1, and things wouldn't look quite so bad. But they took care of business against Innovation, and one other win that's on their record as well. And I still think they're better than their record shows. Do I think that they're in danger of playing down to their record, or kind of letting some things get out of control? I think. I don't know if I'd say they're in danger. I think they have to be aware of it. I don't think they will. I think they have the players and the talent to do it. But they do play, let's see what their upcoming schedule is. They're going to play of course, Olé on this day, and then they'll have Imperial, Shoreline, and Jinga. So those next 3 matches will certainly be, at the very minimum, will be, they'll have to get some results in those to confirm their playoff spot, but then they'll also be, if they do, these are going to be very much seeding games. You think about Imperial, Shoreline City might be fighting for the 2 seed this weekend. Depending on how results go later in the year, Shoreline still has to play Lansing. Imperial still has to play Olé again. There could be a world where Midwest, maybe shoots up and has a chance even at a 2. I haven't looked into the actual, like, what their points position could be. Let's see, they're at 60 matches played at 7 points, so they can get another 12. That puts them at like 19. So it would be tricky. They would definitely need some help, but I wouldn't say that they're totally out of it. But they do need to start getting some results. I mean, if this is a loss against Olé, 2-4-1, and you have Shoreline, Imperial, and Jinga left, and you're at 7 points. This is the one that, because of what the record is right now, they are really in a picture that I see as potentially realistic. They would be the only team that Chicago House would have some type of, very low percentage chance to try to beat out for a playoff spot, because they're only at 7 points right now, and they have 6 games left, and they have to play Olé. The way Olé's been playing, and the way the game went the last time these 2 teams played, if you say that that's a loss, then you have 3 more games, and you need, I think 1 win puts you through, or at least would tie you with Chicago House, but Chicago House does have the tiebreaker because of that win. So Midwest is in a position where they need to win more than 1 game. They need to win a game and get like a tie, or win 2 games and they're in. And it's definitely possible, but you definitely can't let how the season has gone so far impact you. I think you really have to, if you're Midwest, just stay confident in who you guys are and the team that you are, the talent that you have, and just forget about what the record is and know that you are playing all these, games that finish out the season. You are playing to confirm your playoff spot and to compete in the postseason. And, you don't want to get behind in that. If they lose this game, they lose the next one, and all of a sudden they only have 2 more games, and they have to, win both or win and tie. Suddenly you have a lot of pressure on you. That's kind of what I see for Midwest, their outlook starting with this game here. For Olé, I mean, this is going to be they're playing back-to-back, because they play Lansing on Saturday, and then they come back and play right here. So will that impact the players? Will they be fatigued? I know Olé are probably, out of anyone in the league, the least likely to be impacted because of the talent they have across their 3 lines, how much they sub. I mean, they run like 2-minute, maybe 2.5 to 3 minute at the most sub lines. Like, that's how often they sub. So they would probably be the least likely to be impacted by that. But it's still, they still will have going back to back. That can impact your body and recovery. And it's 2 very tough teams that they're going to be playing. So that could make a difference here. But we'll see. I'm hoping that this one will be much better game than the first time around, and I'm sure everyone, probably except for some Olé fans that love the blowouts, are hoping for the same thing. But that'll be Sunday at 7 p.m. Battle for Grand Rapids is run back, and it will be for a home game for Midwest United. And that is going to bring us all the way to our featured section of the show, where Drew Barney of Lansing City will join us. We're going to go into a quick commercial break. We'll get him in here, and we will begin that segment. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are excited. Do not leave your chair.
sliding tackle, and if Montez saved that, outstanding effort as well.
Lansing City in the attack, moving it. Blanco, did he make it? He did, says the referee. Goal number 4 for Lansing City. They pull ahead.
There's a pass to Blanco.
Yeah, Blanco
got it.
Yeah, Blanco touched it. Did you hear me say Blanco puts it away? That's all right. It hit the inside back post. I just have to mention before we move on here, that game was so amazing. You know how many players under the age of 20 were a part of it?
A lot.
Oh my goodness.
A lot of them.
Ethan Castaneda, there's been times where something that he does in the game is exposed, or mistakes and things like that. He was amazing in this game. Last week against Jinga he was, and in this game he played really well, and I think the things that Lansing City have been investing in are starting to pay off. Gomez putting heavy pressure on. And here he is. He finishes. Olé go up by 1.
And when you think about the addition of Daniel De Leon and what he means to this team, we told you that he was the assist leader last season. The goal. Outstanding effort from De Leon to create that. Really good positioning and understanding.
You're watching the Futsal Champions Series on FCS Live.
We're ticking down to the final moments. Lansing City trying to put something together. Aldoni Mendez, he's shielding off Hasevic's toe poke, finds the back of the net. Shoreline's up by 1 with a minute to play.
Wow, Aldoni Mendez just showing his intelligence to shield the ball, to not let Hasevic come through, and just to prevent, I mean, Hasevic is pulling at him, just prevent any.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
McKenzie plays it in, gets it right back to Ramsey Terminini. Weisenhunt's across. Whoa! Hold up! Ramsey Terminini from the circle.
And just like that, Jinga is back in this match. What a shot from Terminini from deep.
My.
Unbelievable. He unleashes just power.
Placement to the upper 90 back post, and the lead is ultimately asking the question, like, was this the best match of futsal on U.S. soil? From a perspective of an entire 40 minutes of futsal, 2 teams that are playing really good futsal. It's back and forth, but not because it's chaotic.
The intensity just kept increasing.
Yeah.
And it started
at kickoff. Very little drop-off or mistake, and they just keep playing that really good futsal. This is what it's supposed to look like right here. There's no doubt that the environment, it's a part of what makes the game what it is. But I think like this is a game that if you took all that away and you just watched the game, it would be amazing still.
You're watching the Futsal Champions Series on FCS Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. Who is here? It is Drew Barney of Lansing City here on the third half to talk about his futsal experience and the upcoming game that they have against Olé, the rematch from Olé's first game of the year. And it was here in the Lansing City Arena where the studio is located. Boy, that was a fun one.
It was exciting.
It was very exciting. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Drew Barney of Lansing City. Drew, thanks so much for jumping on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Of course, you guys have an exciting game against Olé this weekend. But I think you told me when you walked in, you're like, this is the first time I've been in this room,
yeah.
Which is hilarious because you guys train 5 steps that way. And, other players in the FCS have gotten to this room before this Lansing City man, which I just thought was funny. So welcome to the studio. You're here.
Thank you.
Welcome to everyone on the stream. Got any questions for Drew Barney? Put them in the chat as we discover who this man is and how he got involved in futsal. So you've been around futsal for quite some time. Been a part of the Lansing City Academy for a long time. When was your first introduction to futsal?
I think when I was 12, my club coach introduced me to Lansing City and suggested that I come try out, and I made the team, and I've just been playing and getting better at futsal ever since then. So it's been a great experience. I've gotten so much better from playing here, and yeah, it's just been a great time.
That's awesome. That's so cool. When so as your club coach, you started out playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Is soccer is it something that is in your family? How did you get involved in soccer to begin with?
So my dad has always loved soccer. He sports Liverpool. He just loves it. And when I was a little kid, he was always giving me a ball and telling me to do moves like back heels and stuff when I'm 2. And I wasn't really that interested until like 8 or 9, and I like really started to love it, and that's when I started playing club. And then ever since then, it's just been kind of my life.
Yeah. Wow. So started playing club at that age, played futsal with Lansing City. What was some of your earliest memories of futsal in the Lansing City Academy?
Well, I remember when I first came, there was actually 2 courts here, so there was like one on the where there's gymnastics now, and I just remember like just learning all the new stuff about futsal, and it was not what I thought it was. It's a lot different, and it's just like it was really good for me, and I saw myself like grow so much in the times that I've been training here and playing here.
What did you think futsal was when you came in?
Like I just thought it was just like inside soccer, but like just extremely like dribbly. Like everything was just dribbling all the time and just like craziness. But it's a lot different than that. It's more of a like tactical team passing thing. So it's a lot better than or a lot more like more detailed than I thought it would be. Like because when I played in Jackson, there was like futsal stuff, but like it was not really futsal. Like even like just like 3v3 tournaments and stuff, and so it was just craziness. But yeah,
it was more just like soccer on a inside,
and like even then just like smash and bash, kick it,
yeah. So awesome. So I think you and Luciano Jack probably the 3 longest, like you could say, like been around the longest.
Yeah,
I remember Luciano when he was like super small.
Yeah, we were in the youth academy all the time. Yeah,
that's cool. Are there any players I'm missing that were in the youth with you guys?
I think Anthony was there, and then he's returned this year.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't know who else. Probably missing someone, but I don't know.
Missing some. Yeah. Well, that's we had this past weekend, we had the FCS Futures takeover. So at the time that you were in the academy, that league wasn't around. I'm guessing you guys did play a lot of games in the tournaments, the smaller courts. Even before, well, not before, like this big court was here, so you probably got some time on there. But what do you think it would have been like for you had the Futures League been around when you were in the academy?
I think it would have been really exciting to have like this like youth league to be in instead of just like tournaments everywhere. But the tournaments were a lot of fun too. But like being able to play on an actual size court would have been really cool and beneficial, I think.
That's awesome. One of the things that you told me before we went on air was there was a couple of experiences you had that were really interesting to you as you kind of grew up. Tell me about those. What was the first one?
When I was like 12, I was playing for Rush in Jackson, where I'm from, and I got selected to go to this thing called the Rush Hub that was taking place in Missouri, where the different regions of Rush came and played against each other. That was like the first like big thing I've done. It was very uncomfortable for me, but it was really good for me. And then when I was 13 in 2022, I got selected to play with the U.S. select team in Portugal against teams there. So Sporting Lisbon, Benfica, Quinta dos Lambos. It was really cool. It was with Dushan coaching futsal, and it was a great experience. It was my first time traveling out of the country, which was awesome to me because I'm kind of a geography nerd. Like I really like geography and stuff like that. So it was a blast for me to learn all that stuff and to be able to experience that. And then last year, February, I played, there was Valencia from Spain. They had a camp here, and they select like a few players from each of their camps to come and have like a experience at the club where they train and like watch a game.
Wow. And
I had the opportunity to get selected for that, and so I went there and trained there and watched the game, and it was really fun to be there. I was the only kid from America, so everyone else, there was like everyone was from like different parts of Spain. There was one kid from Hungary and one kid from Argentina. I remember we walked into the locker room and we were all just sitting there quietly, and I'm like, oh, what the heck, I'm here. So I stood up and tried to speak Spanish to them because I was going through my second year of Spanish class in high school. It's not good, but like I tried in my very broken Spanish to introduce myself and go through all of them. It was pretty funny, I think.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. Wow. So some really fun experiences that you had. Tell me about this. So you said you're a geography nerd, right?
Yeah,
that's amazing. So, and this was your first time going out of the country with Dushan, and that team in 2022. So, did you have like, I guess I should ask this. What is it about geography that you're like, this is like, I love this?
I think it's just like, I really like people, and I like cultures, and I like how different countries can be and the cultures around that. And obviously growing up with soccer, like all the like different like premier teams around the world like that, I think that also draws me to it. And so it was pretty cool. And like we had a layover in Paris, and I remember we landed there, and I was just like, I'm in Paris right now. I'm in France.
Here right
like
now.
I'd never left the airport, but I was like, I'm in France. And then obviously Portugal is a beautiful country, and so like in the when we had free time, I'd just walk out of the hotel and walk around the city and the beach, and it was a really good time to see that.
Wow. What was the highlight of that experience for you?
I think being able to play in Sporting and Benfica's facilities was like crazy. Like it took a while for it to really sink in. I was like, oh, wow, I just played Sporting. I just played Benfica. And we beat them both, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we won every game.
No way. Wow. What was the competition like there?
It was they were good. Obviously, but like they were good, and our team was good. We had a lot of talented players, and I think we were a lot bigger physically than them. I was kind of surprised by that, but it was really cool to see like these players that are playing in like the best academies for futsal. And so it was kind of like eye-opening to see that, like to understand like what the standard, what the level is for kids in Europe that play futsal.
Was there anything about your experience there, maybe it was how some way of how they played, that you like picked up and kind of took back with you?
I don't know if there's anything specifically, but I mean like just seeing like the culture of it, like the way they play, the way they approach. I'd say the discipline involved, I guess. Yeah, nothing specific really comes to mind though.
Gotcha. What was it like to be on that team coached by Dushan?
It was probably one of the best teams I've ever played on. There was so much talent. All the players were like really good.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool meeting all these people from different parts of America and being able to play with them. And it was pretty fun, like to like be able to play in that situation. And like I thought I played pretty good, but I was pretty nervous the whole time. But yeah.
So now that kind of takes us to your experience with Lansing City in the FCS. Last year, was last year your first time on the men's team in the FCS, or did you play the year before that?
I think the year before that I was training and maybe got into a few games, but last year was the first time that I was like actually like playing a lot. I think.
So last year was kind of the first year that you had like more significant role.
Yeah.
And at the time the season started, you were 15, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 15 at the beginning of last year. You know, you turned 16 during the year. You have that whole year under your belt, and then you're getting ready to come into this year. What did you learn from your experience last year in the FCS that helped you at the beginning of this year?
I would say just being able to play in all those games and get the experience for it. I can be like, yeah, I've played in these games before. I can do this, and just just having the experience to be able to know that I can play futsal and I can help impact in the games for our team.
Yeah, well, I know it's. I mean, having an impact on the team in the FCS is for futsal in the United States. Like it's definitely a mark of a player who is good at futsal if you're having impact. As far as the level goes in the United States, and to do it at the age that you're at is amazing. I mean, just recently turned 17, and we've been talking about you along with some of the other young guys of Lansing City, seeing you guys have such a huge impact. Do you ever feel like pressure from that because you've kind of stepped into like you're a starter, and I don't know how much you listen to what we say on things like this, but in my head, you are like one of the key players, on this team. Do you ever like feel like pressure from that, or does that, being 17 years old, is it like, Do you feel weird about it or something?
I'd say a little bit, but like at the end of the day, I kind of just want to play, and so like it's just another opportunity to play, and I'm grateful for that. So yeah, I've just been kind of just trying to get as good as I can,
Yeah. That's awesome. It looks like you have some friends that are trying to make you laugh over there.
It's not working.
It's not working, he says. I'm really the only one that can see you guys, so you're only distracting me right now. That's hilarious. Yep, some of those guys being hooligans over there. Most of the time this happens in the chat, right? Because, the players who come here, they don't have their teammates right outside the door, but you get the privilege
we'll
of
call
having
that.
your teammates right outside the door, looking in the window. I see you guys. That's hilarious. They're probably going to say something in there right now.
Probably.
I bet you. So that kind of brings us to this year. What do you feel like has been personally the biggest challenge for you on this team this year?
I would say that probably like being able to like definitively like find my role to like where I'm the most effective in like how I play. I would say that. I mean, I know how to play futsal. I've been playing it for a while, but sometimes I think I get a little confused when I shouldn't be, like struggling with confidence. So
yeah,
I've been working on that.
That's amazing. And I know, like, I'm sure anyone that's watched you play, they've seen the moments where you are like, when you don't have that struggle, and it's like I mean, I think your coach has talked a lot about it. He talks about you and Jack all the time when I've talked with him, and he's like, these guys, like, when they realize like who they are, they can be so effective in the game, and that's obviously it's a tough thing, like you're a lot of times when you're going out there facing these teams, there are teams that have young guys on them, but how many times are you faced up against someone who's like almost twice your age, you know what I mean? Or at least feels like they're twice your age, you know what I mean? Like as far as, the strength and their body size and things like that. That's amazing. So let's talk about your guys' first game against Olé. This was, we had a segment on here where we asked the question, was this the best game that was played on U.S. soil? It was the best game that I had seen. And so my question for you is, one, was it the best game you've been a part of? And if not, what is the best game that you've been a part of?
I would say it probably is, as far as I can remember. It was like the atmosphere was like electric. It was really competitive. It was very high level for me. To be able to play in that was a great opportunity, and I'm very grateful. And it was like it was probably the best game I've been a part of.
That's awesome. What do you think went wrong in that game for you guys? You had the lead I think you had the lead or tied for the majority of the game, and it wasn't until the last, I think, maybe 5 minutes or so that they tied and scored again and went up. What went wrong for you guys that they came out on top?
I would say probably it comes down to being able to like finish out a game, being fully focused on all the details for the full game. Like it really matters, especially like the last 5 minutes. So I would say it's probably maybe a mix of like a lack of like experience in those situations where you need to hold on to a close lead and just focus and maybe tiredness too.
Yeah. I got a chance to speak with your coach, Matt Alashari, earlier this week, and one of the things that he mentioned was how your guys' team has had sometimes roller coaster moments, right, where you have this moment like against Olé in this game where for the most of the game, there was a lot of that game. You guys looked like the better team, which is saying a lot for this league because Olé, they haven't lost yet. They've looked like the best team in pretty much every game they've played. This was like one of the only moments that for a lot of the game they didn't. So you have a moment like that, and then you guys have moments like traveling to Chicago, losing one there, losing to Detroit, games that based on how you guys have been playing, you thought maybe would turn out differently. How do you personally attack this? Like the inconsistency of play that we've seen, how do you personally attack that, as you try to grow in your game?
I would say most of it comes down to a lack of, like, experience. Like, a lot of our guys are young or new to futsal, like, this year. And so there's going to be moments like that. And so we just have to work on ourselves and try to be able to reduce those amounts of moments that are roller coaster down. And obviously, when we get into the high part of the roller coaster, you don't want to get too high there either.
Yeah.
So it's got to be steady.
Well, I know you guys were able to kind of straighten the course the 2 weekends ago when you went down. It was like 5 goals against Chicago and then scored 11 straight. So let's kind of turn our attention to this rematch. I'm going to put it up on the screen here of you guys going to Grand Rapids for the second time to play Olé the second time this year. That first one was such a great game. What's your outlook for this game? What are you expecting it to be?
I think it will be a very competitive game. I think it'll be very exciting. I think playing them at home, it's going to be a very electric atmosphere, loud. I think it'll be fun for everyone, fans, players. It should just be like a really exciting competitive match.
You know, it seems like whenever Lansing and Olé meet, you guys have generated some of the most exciting futsal games, you know, in the FCS Live era. Why do you think it is that when these two teams meet, that it's like that happens?
I would say because Olé is very good and they always win, and we are very good, and so when two very good teams play, it's exciting and competitive.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we're looking forward to seeing this Saturday. What do you think is going to be the key for you guys to come away with a win?
I think just being able to play how we play and not be affected by outside factors that could knock our confidence or whatever it is. Just being able to go in and be like, yeah, we're going to play a futsal game. So,
well, last question. It looks like it probably comes from one of your teammates. I'm guessing by the name. Who wins in a 1v1, you or David Saltzman?
Me.
You heard it here first. And it looks like, you might have a chance to go try that as your training begins minus 2 minutes ago. So I better let you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Barney of Lansing City, thank you so much for jumping on the show tonight, man.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. We're going to go to a quick break, and on the other side, we will wrap up with the final game of the week as well as where we sit in the playoffs. So don't go anywhere. They're currently down 2. Here's Hindich at the near post. She slots it in. What a placement.
Yeah, fantastic.
From number 9,
placement.
Medina Hindich. You take another look.
That's what,
wow.
Olé has to be frustrated with the goalkeeping.
I was pleasantly surprised with how we did. I feel like we did compete to the level that we could. I think you could definitely tell our lack of experience. I think some of our goals were generally just some mistakes, and I think it's a combination of nerves and just not having the experience playing at the pace that we were playing. It's really fast, and I think if we tighten that up, we could have stayed really there with them, which is cool. I think for our first game, especially going against a team like Olé, I was really proud of the way we played.
Yeah.
made a fantastic play. You know, you want to make that pass to the back foot and really give your teammate an opportunity just to slide it home first time, but Aldama was not able to handle it.
Midwest are able to work it up. How about this back post? A pretty goal. Raul Montañez doubles the lead.
Look, Aldama could not handle the pass to put it away himself, so he said, you know what, Montañez, I'm going to give it back to you, Raul. With a little back heel flick, just roll over, give it back to him. Montañez.
You're watching the Futsal Champions Series on FCS Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third half podcast. We just got done with a segment with Drew Barney of Lansing City Futsal as they take on Olé this coming Saturday. So if you missed that, go back, check it out. I see a response in the chat from Mr. David Saltzman. He says, I'm guarding you all night at training. There was a little battle here. Who wins in a 1v1? You or David. So they're going to duke it out at training for the rest of the night. And to finish off our night, we are going to take a look at the final two matches of the weekend. So we talked a little bit about the Olé and Lansing game with Drew here, but I want to talk about it a little bit more fully. The first of the doubleheader. So the women's will play after this, but first it's the men that play. And the question that was asked after the first game that these two teams played in this year, I put it up. It was this the best game that we've seen on U.S. soil up to this point? It was the best game that I had seen, and it wasn't just because of what the atmosphere was like. And that was a little bit of what we discussed on that particular episode, myself and Gerard Ascani, what we were talking about. But it was like if you take away all of the things that make matches really, really exciting, like the atmosphere and the stakes, and you know, if it's like a playoff game or the finals or whatever, if you take away some of those external things and you just look at like the play of the futsal, you know, I thought it was the best one that I had seen. And, you know, for Drew, it was, you know, he felt like it was the best one that he had played in. We had a couple of Olé players on the podcast over the course of the last couple of months, Frankie Mendoza and Cesar Layo. And both of them, they felt like it was not the best one. And they particularly said they felt like their team did not perform very well, at least for certain portions of the game. And so that was kind of the original question. When I talked with Coach Matt Alashari earlier this week, he said that, you know, what he'd love to see is a game that tops that one in intensity, that tops that one in the skill and just in an entertaining match. That's something that I think we see every time when these two teams play. It seems like pretty much every time it's competitive, it's good futsal, it's really fun to watch. And it's just really what you would want to see in the FCS from like a fan perspective, and you know, both being a really exciting game and also really good futsal. And that's what I expect to see. You know, Lansing City, as I mentioned earlier, they have had like roller coaster like moments throughout this year and last year too. Right now they're at just above 500 at 4-3. They've had, you know, a game against Olé that, for a lot of the match, they were looking like the better team, ended up losing. They had a game against Midwest, who has been one of the top teams in the FCS. And this year, their record's looking a little bit different, but 2 years in a row getting to the finals, and they beat them, you know, at home fairly soundly, even though the second half was more for Midwest as far as in their favor. Lansing City was able to win that game, and then so they've had some really good performances, and then some where they're more quite a bit more disappointing. And it almost looked like their most recent game against Chicago House was going to go that way as well when they went down 5-0 at home. So these are the things that are obviously very concerning for Lansing City. But sitting down here with Drew, it's like I'm reminded, like, we talk about the young players of Lansing City, but when he was sitting right here and he's telling me he just turned 17 not that long ago, I'm reminded that this is a guy who is like I see as one of the key players for Lansing City and is one of the starters and one of their anchors for their team. And he is just turned 17. And, like, that is absolutely amazing for him to be playing at the level he is with the responsibility he's taking on for this team at that age is incredible. And I do think that, maturity and growing is a big part of why Lansing City has had these, roller coaster moments, So that's kind of where I see Lansing City for Olé. The story kind of remains that they have not lost a game in the FCS. They are, undefeated, and they're looking to continue that. They're going to be at home. They've had some really big wins at home this year. They are a team that has 3 lines of players. They have 12 players that play really good. Their level of play hardly drops at all from line to line. They do very quick substitutions. Every 2 or 3 minutes they're subbing. And I think for them, they're coming in to try to show that the first game that these two teams played in, that they really did not perform at their best, and they are going to, and they're going to win more comfortably and by a bigger margin. I hope it's a really good game. I hope it's a really exciting one. These two teams usually bring that, and it's one of the moments in the season where I think the undefeated record is at its biggest threat. There's a few games that I think are that way, and this is one of them for Olé. So we'll see what happens Saturday at 5 p.m. Who do you think is going to take it, Lansing City or Olé? Will Olé remain undefeated in the FCS, or will Lansing City show the team that they can be for a full 40 minutes and knock off the reigning champs? It's going to be Saturday at 5 p.m. Immediately following, at 8 p.m., it's going to be the women's side battling out again. Olé at 2-0 and Lansing City at 1-2. The very first match of the FCS women's happened right here in the arena. Lansing City faced Olé, and what I thought was going to be a one-sided match really wasn't. And it kind of surprised many people, and actually had Jenna Lee on the show earlier this year, and she kind of said the same thing. It was like, we kind of found out that we were actually able to be more competitive than we thought and most people thought. And then Olé kind of took it, for the second half, and they end up winning. I think it was 6-3. So the big question is, are we going to see that again? Was Olé caught by surprise, and are they going to not be caught by surprise this time, and are they going to win more comfortably? Or, was that competitiveness we saw in that first matchup, does that stand true? And will Lansing City, make this a very competitive match, and will it go down to the wire? We got to see Valeria Velasquez for Lansing City the last couple matches. She has a lot of talent, and that was not a player that was present for the first one. So I know in the first one, Maya Danik in goal had made a lot of saves. She did have 1 or 2 mistakes as well that led to goals. So This one also could be very exciting. I think these 2 games in Grand Rapids, the men's and women's, Lansing City and Olé, I think they're shaping up to be very good games. And we'll see what happens. If Olé wins this one, then they're most likely going to have that showdown with Chicago House between 2 undefeated teams squaring off at the end of February. I think they'll square off twice in a pretty short succession, maybe in the course of 2 weeks. And they'll, if Olé wins this one, then those matchups will be for the 1 seed for the FCS women's, which, of course, for the women's, only 4 teams in the league. 3 teams will make the playoffs. The top seed gets an automatic bye direct to the finals. So being the top seed is a huge, huge deal. And then, of course, number 2 seed will host number 3 for a semifinal. Speaking of the playoffs, let's actually take a look at where we're at right now for the playoff picture. So a reminder, top 6 teams advance. This is for the men's league. The top 2 seeds will get a bye, and the higher seed will always host. So top 2 seeds will get a bye directly to the semifinals, and they will host the semifinal. And then we will see 3 playing 6 and 4 playing 5. And then, of course, the finals will be played at the Lansing City Arena. So as of now, technically, only 3 teams have clinched a playoff spot, and that is Olé, Imperial, and Shoreline. Lansing City have almost clinched it. They just need to have a result. The key would be when they play Innovation City later this year. As long as Innovation City does not win out the rest of their games, Lansing City will have clinched the spot. So they just need a result in any of their matches to get to 13 points, and they will be in the playoffs. Jinga are at 9 points. They have a game against Innovation this weekend. If they win, that will put them in a very good spot. I think actually it will, if they win this weekend, I think it will, yes, it will put them as clinching a playoff spot. So this weekend is important for them. And for Midwest, they're at that 6th seed right now. They have really, it was one game, the tie against Shoreline that they lost the lead in, and then the game against Chicago House they lost. Those are the two that are hurting them the most right now. They do have to play Olé again, and then they'll have Detroit, Shoreline, and Jinga to round out the year. So they are still very much in control of their playoff destiny as far as if they make it in or not. And the way things are looking right now, it would have to be something very surprising for either of the two teams in the 7 or 8 to make it in. But there is more of a chance for Chicago House to challenge Midwest. Some crazy things would have to happen, but they do have the tiebreaker. So if Midwest only gets to 9 points, which would be 2 ties in their final 4 games and 2 losses, Chicago House would have the tiebreaker. That's kind of like their only way in, most likely. So that's where we sit right now in the playoff picture. And we're getting to the stage where it's mostly about what the seeding is like. And for this weekend, to me, the most interesting things for seeding is if Lansing City beats Olé, then all of a sudden that opens up the possibility of Shoreline maybe getting the 1 seed if they also win. So if Shoreline wins and they're at 5-1-1 and Olé is at 5-1, then it's like, okay, there's a chance there. I don't think Shoreline and Olé play again, but Olé do have to play Midwest, who has played them very competitively in the past. Not this season yet, but potentially. So that could be interesting. Still is, in my head, it's still a long shot based on how consistent they've been and how well that they've played and how talented that team is from top to bottom and how consistently they play. It's very hard to see them not winding up with the 1 seed. But a loss this weekend to Lansing City, especially if they followed up with either a loss or a draw against Midwest, all of a sudden the conversation is totally different about the 1 seed. For Shoreline, if they win, that does put them in the driver's seat for the 2 seed with 3 games left to play. They will be at 5-1-1, and Imperial will drop down to 5-3. So with a loss, I think this is where it is for Imperial. With a loss for them, all of a sudden they are like down in the mix in like the middle of the pack. They're at the top of the middle of the pack, but they would go from being at the top and having the opportunity to stay there to all of a sudden they're in the middle, and maybe they're not maybe they won't be hosting a playoff game anymore. We'll see. So that is the implications for what these games could mean. Some big ones. To me, the biggest, Olé and Lansing, Detroit and Shoreline. These are the top 4 teams in the standings that are clashing this Saturday, 5 p.m. and then 8 p.m., among other games that are going on as well. So if you are excited, I hope you are. Definitely join us for those matches on FCS Live here on the YouTube channel this weekend. A lot of great ones coming. Should be a really fun weekend, and we're just getting more and more into the deeper part of the season where the games matter more and playoffs are in sight. But that also means we only have like 2 months left. That's where we started the show. We only have 2 months left of FCS, so soak it all in, have lots of fun, and we will see you guys on Saturday to kick off the weekend. Good night. attack. Kluppel now with it. Space inside. Shot. He finds the back of the net. Lansing City up by 1.